Imagine this. You finally got that phone you've been waiting for. On the first day, you couldn't put it down, sharing your excitement with everyone. But what happened a month later? That initial thrill faded away, and the phone started feeling ordinary, right? Or think about that dream vacation you had been planning for years. The first few days were amazing, but towards the end, you found yourself slipping back into your usual routine. Sound familiar? You're not alone. In fact, we all experience this. Today, we're going to talk about why happiness fades so quickly and the psychological concept behind it, hedonic adaptation. What is hedonic adaptation? Hedonic adaptation means getting used to pleasure or happiness. Psychologists use this term to describe our tendency to quickly adjust to both good and bad events, returning to our previous level of happiness. In other words, whether something wonderful or terrible happens to us, our emotions eventually return to their baseline. For example, when we start a new job or move into a new house, our happiness level initially increases. However, over time, we adapt to this new situation and the excitement fades, bringing our happiness back to its previous balance. Conversely, in the case of a negative event, such as losing a job, our happiness level drops at first, but over time, we recover and return to a level close to where we started. As unbelievable as it may sound, research shows that people who win the lottery and those who suffer serious accidents that leave them disabled often return to similar happiness levels after some time. This means that neither a massive jackpot nor a tragic misfortune has as lasting an impact on happiness as we might expect. The brain adjusts to both circumstances, finding a new normal. This phenomenon is also referred to as the happiness treadmill or happiness set point. Imagine running on a treadmill, but staying in the same place. This is exactly how hedonic adaptation works. No matter what we experience, our long-term happiness tends to return to its usual state. Why does our brain adapt? So, why does this happen? Why does our brain get used to both good and bad experiences over time? Actually, there are several psychological and biological reasons behind this phenomenon. From an evolutionary perspective, for humans to survive, they needed to quickly adapt to changing conditions. Our brain is constantly scanning the environment to keep us alive. If we remain too fixated on the joy of a positive event and become complacent, or if we dwell too much on the pain of a negative experience, we might miss other opportunities or dangers around us. That's why our brain is highly sensitive to novelty, but tends to push constant things into the background. When a new reward or threat appears, we pay close attention. However, if the situation persists for a long time, the brain starts seeing it as normal and reacts less. This mechanism helped our ancestors quickly return to their baseline state and continue with their lives. Happiness set point colon. Experts suggest that each person has a happiness thermostat determined by their genetics and personality. According to this concept, even though life has ups and downs, our happiness level eventually returns to its set point. Interestingly, research shows that only about 10% of our long-term happiness is influenced by external factors such as money, health, job, and social status. Around 50% is linked to our genetic makeup, meaning that some people are naturally more optimistic, while others may be more prone to anxiety. The remaining 40% is shaped by our thought patterns and daily habits. What does this mean? It means that big promotions, winning the lottery, or buying a new house contribute only a small fraction to our overall happiness. Our brain experiences a temporary boost from these changes, but soon adapts and returns to the range determined by our genetics and personal mindset. In short, external circumstances have less power to create lasting happiness than we often assume. Dopamine and the pursuit of novelty. Our curiosity for the new is another key factor. The dopamine system, which regulates reward and pleasure in our brain, surges when we experience something new or achieve something we desire. This is why we feel an intense sense of happiness. However, when we are exposed to the same stimulus repeatedly, dopamine release decreases. The brain starts perceiving that experience as normal. In a way, we become sensory numb to it. Think about your favorite song. The first time you hear it, it feels amazing, and you might even play it on repeat 10 times. But by the 50th listen, the excitement is no longer the same, right? Similarly, a brand new car feels special at first, but after a few months, it just seems ordinary. That luxurious smell, that comfort, all of it becomes familiar to the brain. Without new stimulation, excitement levels drop back to their baseline. For these reasons, hedonic adaptation is actually a natural part of how our brain operates. It helps keep us balanced and prevents us from staying at emotional extremes for too long. This is a good thing because sadness doesn't last forever. But at the same time, it's also a downside because happiness is often short-lived. Real-life examples. The concept of hedonic adaptation can be observed in countless real-life scenarios. Take celebrities and the wealthy, for example. From the outside, we assume that fame, money, and success should bring constant happiness. But in reality, that's not the case. Many celebrities and millionaires still struggle with dissatisfaction or even depression. One major reason for this is that all the wonderful things they achieve eventually become normal to them. Think of an actor who wins an Oscar. At that moment, they are on cloud nine. But a few months or years later, that trophy just sits on a shelf, collecting dust. They might find themselves wondering, what now? Comedian Jim Carrey summed it up perfectly. I hope everybody could get rich and famous and have everything they ever dreamed of, so they will see that it's not the answer. This quote reflects the realization of someone who has reached the top. Having it all doesn't guarantee lasting happiness. In short, having more does not mean being happier. It's not just celebrities. We as ordinary people are also caught in this cycle. Take a family that just bought a new house. In the first few days or weeks, they explore every corner with excitement, enjoying their new space. But a year later, that house has become just the backdrop of their daily lives. They stop noticing its beauty and might even start focusing on its flaws. Eventually, thoughts like, I wish we had a bigger house, begin to creep in. What's happening here? They have simply adapted to something they once dreamed of, and now it no longer feels special. We see this pattern with technology as well. We upgrade our phones or laptops, feel happy for a while, and then, as soon as a newer model is released, we start craving that one instead. In other words, there's always something newer, something better just over the horizon. A striking example comes from scientific research. A classic study from the 1970s compared two groups, people who had won the lottery and people who had become paralyzed due to severe accidents. The results were shocking. After some time had passed, neither group remained at emotional extremes, and in fact, their happiness levels were surprisingly similar. Lottery winners were ecstatic at first, but months later, they still faced everyday problems and frustrations. Meanwhile, those who had suffered paralysis initially experienced deep sadness, but over time, they found new meaning in life and partially recovered emotionally. This study highlights both the good and bad sides of hedonic adaptation. When we're happy, we assume that feeling will last forever, but it doesn't. When we're suffering, we believe we'll never be happy again. But with time, we heal. Humans adapt to everything, both blessings and hardships, the vicious cycle of happiness. Perhaps the most frustrating aspect of hedonic adaptation is that it traps us in a cycle. This is often referred to as the happiness treadmill or hedonic treadmill. No matter what we achieve or how much happiness we experience, we eventually become unsatisfied again. Then we chase a new goal, a new purchase, or a new relationship, hoping that this time it will bring lasting happiness. But once we reach that goal, the same cycle repeats. A short burst of happiness, followed by adaptation, and then dissatisfaction once again. It's like running on a treadmill. We keep pushing forward, yet in reality, we're stuck in the same place. Let's say you keep thinking, I'll be so happy if I buy a car. And when you finally get it, yes, you feel happy. But 6 months later, you start noticing more luxurious models. Then you tell yourself, if I get that model, I'll be truly satisfied. You buy it, and for a while it excites you, but eventually it feels just as ordinary as the first one. This cycle can go on forever. Why can't we ever be satisfied? Because, as we discussed earlier, our brain craves novelty and adapts to what becomes standard. We keep searching for happiness in the next new thing. That's why we fall into the trap of always wanting more. In fact, this fuels consumer culture in modern society. Advertisements constantly tell us, if you buy the newer, bigger, and better version, you'll be happy. So we buy it, we feel happy for a while. Then the same thought creeps in again. It's not enough. I need more. No matter what we buy, it never truly feels like enough, does it? Of course, there's another side to this cycle. We also adapt to negative experiences. Just as happiness doesn't last forever, sadness is also rarely permanent. Over time, people adapt to pain and loss, and life goes on. This is actually one of the benefits of hedonic adaptation, but we often fail to realize it. When we're in pain, we think it will last forever. When we're happy, we want it to last forever. The result? Life always pulls us back to the middle. Ways to overcome hedonic adaptation. So is there no way to escape this cycle? Of course, completely avoiding it is difficult, After all, we can't entirely rewire how the human brain works, but we can reduce the effects of hedonic adaptation and make happiness last a little longer. Scientists and psychologists suggest several strategies for living a more fulfilling life. By turning these into habits, we can increase our happiness levels and slow down the process of adaptation. 1. Practice gratitude. Taking what we have for granted and forgetting its value is a direct result of hedonic adaptation. To counter this, we can develop a habit of consciously appreciating the good things in our lives. Take a few minutes every day to think about or write down 3 things you are grateful for. This sends a signal to your brain that what I have is valuable, helping you appreciate it again. Studies show that practicing gratitude increases happiness and reduces depression. So, if you want to feel happier, remind yourself more often of the good things already present in your life. 2. Focus on experiences, not things. The way we spend our money plays a role in long-term happiness. Buying new things like a phone, clothes, or a car can bring joy, but that happiness fades quickly. On the other hand, spending money on experiences, such as traveling, going to a concert, or enjoying a special evening with loved ones, creates memories and reduces the effects of hedonic adaptation. Unlike material things, experiences don't wear out in our minds. Even years later, simply remembering them can bring happiness. Additionally, experiences often involve social connections, like a family trip or an event with friends, and research shows that strong social relationships are key to long-term happiness. So, invest in making memories, not just collecting things. 3. Live in the moment and practice mindfulness. Instead of searching for happiness in past memories or future goals, it's far more valuable to focus on the good things happening right now. This is exactly what mindfulness teaches us, to be fully present. Savor the taste of the food you're eating, truly enjoy the conversation you're having, notice the beauty around you while walking. When our mind learns to stay in the present, we appreciate what we have in the moment, which slows down hedonic adaptation. Why? Because instead of constantly thinking about what's next, the brain fully immerses itself in the pleasure of the present. A simple example: next time you drink your coffee, really take in its aroma, warmth, and taste with all your senses. Even this small experience can bring greater joy and make the feeling last longer. Being present reduces one of happiness's greatest enemies, taking things for granted. 4. Diversify your goals and routine. If we live the same routine every day, life starts to feel monotonous, and our brain becomes numb to the good things we already have. That's why introducing variety is essential. Instead of always sticking to the same hobbies, try something new. Change your weekend plans, explore a place you've never been to, or take a different route on your walk. Even small surprises stimulate the brain and keep happiness fresh. Similarly, rather than focusing on one big goal, set smaller, achievable milestones that you can consistently reach. Every time you accomplish one, reward yourself and savor the achievement. This way, you don't have to wait for massive, life-changing moments to feel happy. You create small joy checkpoints along the way. Remember, monotony is the best friend of hedonic adaptation. Variety is its enemy. 5. Invest in relationships and meaning. Finally, when it comes to happiness, relationships and meaningful pursuits have a much more lasting impact than material things. Spending quality time with loved ones, helping others, or engaging in community service creates a deeper and more sustainable sense of fulfillment. This actually shifts us from hedonic, pleasure-based happiness to eudaimonic, meaning-based happiness, which is much more enduring. For example, when you help someone or participate in a volunteer project, that sense of purpose doesn't just bring joy in the moment. It can keep you feeling fulfilled for days. Contributing to something bigger than yourself is one of the most powerful ways to break free from the happiness treadmill. While these strategies won't completely eliminate hedonic adaptation, they help disrupt its cycle. In other words, we're not tricking the brain, but rather using its adaptation mechanism to our advantage. Ultimately, the goal is to build a lifestyle that sustains happiness over time. In summary, hedonic adaptation explains why both happiness and sadness are not permanent. The good news is that this is a natural part of being human. The bad news is that lasting happiness cannot be achieved through external circumstances alone. However, with conscious effort, we can break free from this cycle by practicing gratitude, living in the moment, prioritizing experiences over things, embracing novelty, and building meaningful relationships. Remember, happiness is not a destination, it's a journey. It's a journey that requires continuous effort and meaning every single day. Material things are temporary, but the experiences you create and the connections you build are true, lasting treasures. Now let me ask you, have you ever experienced something that lost its excitement after you finally got it? Was there something you wanted for years, but once you had it, it didn't feel as special anymore? Share your own examples in the comments. I'd love to read them. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like it and subscribe to the channel for more content like this. Your support means a lot to me. Thank you so much for watching and see you in the next video. Stay happy. Take care.